Secretary, I consider myself a raging Indiophile. And one reason is that India always struck me as a miracle. 1.4 billion people speaking over 100 languages, having free and fair elections, generation after generation. If India were like Syria today, I mean, the whole world would be different. And President Modi, I think, has been impressive in his achievements in building infrastructure, and India's economy is really taken off, I think, to a whole new degree. But I do worry about the kind of runaway Hindu nationalism sometime, draining India of its example of this incredible example of pluralism. How do you see it?
So I think we see two things. First of all, we see an extraordinary success story, and we see the remarkable achievements that Prime Minister Modi has achieved, moved forward under his watch that have materially benefited and materially positively affected so many Indian lives. We also see a relationship between our countries that is in a new place, at a new level. And that's been, I think, the very deliberate effort of both the Prime Minister and President Biden, who believes in this deeply. At the same time, a constant, regular part of our conversation is the conversation about democracy, about rights. President took office wanting to make sure that we put back into our foreign policy these fundamental concerns about democracy, about human rights. And we've done that. We do it in different ways, in different places. In some places, maybe it's more overt, maybe it's more vocal. In others, because of the nature of the relationship we may have with the country, with the government, it's part of a very sustained, very real conversation. And a conversation that we, of course, hope produces positive change. That's the case with India.
A country is obviously in the news because of the recent election is Taiwan. Taiwan's one of my favorite countries. A barren rock in a typhoon-laden sea that, has, amassed these incredible reserves, the world's best chip company. So much has changed there, Mr. Secretary, over the 40 years I've been visiting. There's just one thing that hasn't changed, and it's geography. It's still a tiny island off mainland China, and people who forget their geography sometimes get in trouble. And that wrestling inside Taiwan over that, we see in every election, including the last one. How do you see the results of the last election? Because there was a certain balanced result with the KMT I think, maintaining the majority in the parliament, the DPP winning the presidency. How do you see it, and how do you hope the U.S. Congress responds to it?
Well, I think what we see in Taiwan on one level is very straightforward. We see a very powerful affirmation of democracy, something that we congratulated the people of Taiwan for, and something that's been consistent now over many years. And that's the most important thing. Look, our fundamental interest, the fundamental interest of countries around the world, is to make sure that peace and stability is maintained at Taiwan Strait, that any differences between Beijing and Taiwan are resolved peacefully